Hello and welcome to Marine Science Cafe podcast. I am so sorry for not having posted videos for a while, but trust me, I haven't given up on this channel just yet. I've been extremely busy with travels, work, application to PhDs, PhD interviews, decision making, and in fact, I've actually come to a decision and I accepted a PhD in the UK. So of course, I will probably talk more about this in later videos. In the meantime, I've been thinking quite a lot about this channel and about what I wanted to do with it. Until now, I've done mostly science-oriented videos, and as much as I want to keep doing these, I was also thinking that I would like to do some more kind of vlog-like videos where I talk about my life as a researcher and as a scientist, and I would also like to do some more podcast-like videos where I actually interview people. So this is actually my first podcast-like video, which we can just call podcast for the sake of simplicity. And you'll see the format is very different. It's much longer, and it wasn't scripted or anything like that. It's all spontaneous. It's also not intended to be watched necessarily, although I will put some illustration videos, but it's mostly intended to be listened to. And I particularly love podcasts because I listen to them when I'm doing lab work, when I cook, when I'm in the transit, and I just wanted to bring a contribution to the research world by interviewing some researchers about their fascinating research in a podcast format. I have now interviewed several researchers. I actually have quite a number of videos to post. It's just taking me forever to edit, especially editing the podcasts because the videos are so long. And I tried to do mostly interviews of people who are marine biologists, but I myself, I'm kind of drifting away from the world of marine biology, so I don't want to limit myself to marine biology. And there's so much fascinating research out there that I just will interview whoever is willing to be interviewed. I would like to thank them for giving me the opportunity to interview them. So let me know what you think about these different video formats, if there's a format that you think you would like more than another, or if you would like all of them to be kind of an equal proportion, or yeah, just let me know. Onto the podcast itself. The person that I interviewed is Mette, and she is a postdoc researcher at Aarhus University in Denmark. I spent a lot of time working with Mette in a cruise in northeast Greenland last summer, and I got to know her a bit better while I was on this cruise, and she's an incredible and very knowledgeable researcher. Mette studies krill, but her longtime dream was to study whales, and in this podcast you will actually see how she reconciles her dream of studying whales with the passion that she has developed for krill. The discussion was quite long, so in the description below, you will actually find a themed timeline so you can jump to the topics that you find most interesting if you don't want to listen to the whole thing. Although I do recommend listening to the whole thing because I think it's really a fascinating talk, and Mette was so interesting to talk to. I really hope you enjoy this first podcast. Please let me know what you think about it in the comments below. And yeah, have a good time and thanks for watching and listening. Hello, Mette.
Hello, Marine.
It's nice to have you here and to be able to talk to you about marine biology.
Yeah.
And I don't know, about what you do as a career.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, well, you know, I like talking to you, so.
Me too.
Yeah, I thought that maybe we could start this by talking a little bit about how we met, except I can't really remember how we met.
Yeah, well, when you say that, I think we met here in Denmark, in Agersted, just very briefly.
Oh, that's
in
true.
An office, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. In an office, yes.
Yeah.
And you told me at the time that you were doing acoustics with zooplankton or krill, or I can't remember. Yeah,
I was starting to do that actually. Yeah.
You were starting your postdoc.
Yeah, I was doing my postdoc here and also in Oslo in Norway.
In Oslo. Yeah. That's
so
true.
A bit here and there, but we actually really met at a cruise we went on last year.
Yeah, this summer.
Yeah.
So this summer we were on the Dana cruise.
Yeah.
In northeast Greenland.
Far away.
Almost
away. North Pole, but not really.
Almost North Pole. Yeah. And we spent 3 weeks there.
Yeah.
That's a really good way of knowing people.
It is.
Yeah.
Also working during night shifts, that's also a really good way.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, just we were part of these people who were doing night shifts. There weren't a lot of us who were up all night.
It was the hardcore team.
Yeah, we were the hardcore team.
Yeah.
So maybe you can tell me a little bit about what you were doing on that cruise.
Yeah.
I know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I know what you were doing too a little bit, but you can refresh my memory.
Right, I can do that. I am an ecologist, marine ecologist, and I was looking at zooplankton.
Yeah.
Which is basically what fish and seabirds and whales are feeding on. So
zooplankton is... How big is it?
Yeah, it's like, there are different sizes, but it comes in all from very, very tiny copepods, which are like a crustacean. Yeah. Like a shrimp is a crustacean. It's a group of animals and of plankton. And then you have like krill, for instance, which are like 4 centimeters. So it ranges from...
4 centimeters?
Yeah.
Did they really get that big?
Yeah.
Wait. So that's
actually up to 5.
Up to 5 centimeters.
Yeah.
Giant krill.
Giant krill.
There's such thing as giant krill.
Giant krill.
Anywhere in Antarctica, I suppose.
They're giants.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they are much larger actually. Yeah. 7 centimeters.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So this can be considered zooplankton.
Yeah. But also micronecton actually, because the way you define plankton is that it moves with currents, so they don't swim themselves. They just go along with the currents, but these critters actually can swim themselves. So it's kind of a
so they're in between stages or definitions. Yeah. Because plankton itself is an organism that drifts with the currents.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It comes from Greek, which
I think it means drift.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It means drifters. Yeah. And then you have phytoplankton, which are the plants, the really small plants that drift, and then you have the zooplankton,
which are animals
and
drift. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then krill is zooplankton, but the very large krill is kind of on the verge of not being zooplankton anymore.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a bit blurry.
Yeah.
Yeah, but...
So why are they cool?
Yeah, good question. Well, first of all, actually, I should say that krill are really studied in Antarctica. So they're really important there in the ecosystem. So, they know a lot about them down there. But in the Arctic, where we were, it's very understudied compared to other groups of plankton.
Yeah, okay.
So already there, they're pretty cool. I mean, and another cool thing about them is that they have this special behavior. So they do vertical migrations every day. So they would actually migrate several of 100 meters in the water column, being up near the surface during night to eat. And then when it's day, they will go deep to avoid being eaten by fish, which can actually see them.
Okay.
So they have this vertical migration, it's called. People think that the main trigger there is, like, it's a trade-off between being able to eat stuff, because all the things they eat are up in the upper water column.
So the phytoplankton, which is the plant plankton, is that what they feed on?
They feed on that, but they also feed on copepods.
So copepod are vegetarian zooplankton.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So the copepod feed on the phytoplankton.
Yes.
And the phytoplankton is close to the surface.
Yeah.
Because that's where there's light.
Light, and they have nutrients. Like it's if they come too deep, there's not enough light for them to do the photosynthesis, and they can't grow and live. So it's
so they're closer to the surface, and then the krill has to go up at night so that they can feed on phytoplankton
and also
and the
copepods, which are actually feeding on the phytoplankton.
And that's kind of funny, because for a really long time I thought that krill was just vegetarian, that it was just eating phytoplankton. And then maybe you or some other people told me that they also were carnivorous. Yeah,
they're omnivorous, I guess. They eat whatever there is.
Yeah, okay.
But it's also, I mean... Yeah, it differs between species of krill as well. Yeah. So there are one that is more carnivorous or eating meat. Than the others. So
there's several species of krill. And do all the species have this vertical migration?
They do, but they have also, like, the smaller species don't migrate as deep as the larger ones. So they have like a favorite depth, you can say.
Okay, so they kind of stratify depending on the species?
Yeah, also I think it's all a matter of energetics as well. I mean, if you are too small, you will not go too deep, because then you will not, it's too far to go compared to what you gain of energy by eating. And so it's all but all this, I mean, it's still very understudied. So,
but it's really interesting, because I actually sent you a message about this. I was reading The Sea Around Us by Rachel Carson, which was published in 1950. And she talks about krill diel vertical migration in that book.
Yeah, that's true.
And except, actually, she doesn't talk about krill vertical migration. They don't know what it is that does the migration.
That's true.
So they have some acoustic images, and they can see that there's something that moves in masses from the depth all the way to the surface at night and goes back down during the day, and they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
that could have,
because it was this point in time where it was they were on the verge of figuring out what it was, right? So she gives a bunch of examples, and she says that it's probably krill, which she compares to tiny shrimps.
Yeah,
because they look a little bit.
They do. Yeah,
I used to call them shrimpy dudes.
Shrimpy dudes.
I didn't really know how to. Yeah. Anyway, long story or old story, and then she says that they could be squid.
Right.
Which I think, do squid also do diel vertical migration?
I'm not sure about that, actually. Because that's another understudied group, actually.
Yeah, they are really understudied. And then she talks about mesopelagic fish as well, which are the fish that are in between two water layers.
Yeah, I think you say between 200 and 1,000 meters.
Yeah. And
they have the same behavior as krill, so they will, just to avoid being eaten by larger fish, they would go deep during the day, not to be seen.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So they also do diel vertical migration.
Yeah.
So when you were on the boat, you were using acoustics as well.
Yeah.
So what do you do with the acoustic?
Yeah. Well, acoustics.
What is it?
Yeah. So basically, it's sending out sound in the water. Mm-hmm. So people use that. They have used that for a long time to detect bottom, of course. When you're sailing, you want to know how deep it is, where you're sailing. So you can send out a sound, and when the sound hits the bottom or another object, it would reflect or return to the echo sounder, which you use to send out the sound and receive the sound.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you send out a really high frequency sound, you can actually detect really small things. And if you send out a low frequency sound, you can detect larger things.
Okay.
So in the fishery, you would use a low frequency sound, and then you can kind of see where the schools of fish are.
Yeah.
And actually now the technology is so you could actually send out different frequencies and get an idea of what species you're actually looking. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's under development. And the same go for plankton. You could do the same. Potentially.
Okay. So they kind of found that out a little bit randomly, like maybe around the 50s or even a bit earlier than that, where they were mapping the bottom of the ocean, and they saw that there were some signals that would come from the middle of the water column, and there would be like
the scattering layer.
What is this?
Yeah, what could that be?
And then they saw that layer moved up and down. And they didn't know what it was, and so they were actually seeing this krill and these fish. And
probably that was what they saw.
Yeah, or some other deep sea monster that we never found out.
Exactly.
So scientists, marine biologists, use this tool. To study various species.
Yeah,
so it's used in fisheries, but you also use it.
Yeah, or I aim to use it.
Yeah.
Basically, because the thing is, it's really smart because if you are on a cruise, you would often just stop at some stations to take samples and measurements. But here, when you have acoustics, you can actually map a really big area because you can send out sound while sailing, so you can get like a really good spatial resolution of what you're seeing. So invasive as well. You would not go and take samples per se, but I mean you always have to take samples to know what you're looking at. So that's kind of the downside, I guess, of acoustics, that you're not always sure what you see, what it is moment. That you see.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to couple those acoustic signals with some sampling to get an idea of what is in the water column.
Exactly.
And another interesting thing is that when you're sampling the water column for krill or any kind of zooplankton organism, you don't know exactly where to sample because it's such a huge. I mean, there's so much water, right? And you're aiming for a very specific depth with your net, so that acoustic tool is used to see where that layer of zooplankton is and where you should drop your net to catch this zooplankton, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like the fishermen are using for their fish, basically. They can see what depth they're in and...
And
so
then
it's the same.
And then when the zooplankton net comes back, what do you do with it?
Well, then you want to conserve the sample. So you can count it and identify the organisms later on.
Because there's different species.
There are different species. And then you can roughly get an idea of which species dominates and what kind of organisms that you that are there. Basically. One problem with acoustics is that if you want to look at plankton, you use high frequency sound, and that high frequency sound cannot go that deep in the water.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
you're not catching everything that is below a certain depth.
Right. So, for instance, maybe you can only see the upper 150 meters.
Okay. So how deep does it go in these areas where we were? How deep was it?
Well, the really low frequency one, the lowest on the ship, that can go. I mean, I think the deepest station we were on were around 3,000 meters.
3,000 meters?
I think so. Yeah.
Was it that deep?
Yeah.
My God, that's terrifying. Yeah. So there was 3,000 meters of water below our feet. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I kind of have a recollection that it might have been close to 2,000, but maybe it was 3,000 in some areas. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's really deep.
So the acoustic device on the ship can go that deep and look at and see the bottom.
Actually, the 18 kilohertz, which is the lowest one, I actually don't I cannot do the calculation in my head right now, but it's easy to do. If it can reach, I don't remember if it reached the bottom.
Maybe that's a bit too deep.
Yeah, maybe it is, because the 38 kilohertz, which is the second lowest one, or in the between, there were 3 different frequencies, that reached around 800.
Okay.
800 meters.
And so which frequency do you use?
120 kilohertz for the krill.
And that's about 150 meters.
Yeah, 250 on a really good day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it depends on...
It depends on if there's a lot of stuff in the water, like...
the weather? Like the water, if the water's moving? Or
because...
If the water currents, maybe?
Mostly if there are a lot of noise from the ship, that can also disturb. I mean, if there's a storm, for instance, you would get really a lot of noise in the close to the echo sounder, which is sending out the sound, and that would disturb how deep it can go, and so there are.
But do you actually expect that there's anything below this depth? Below 100 and 200 meters?
Yeah.
Do you think there's any zooplankton there?
Yeah, there should be. I mean, the krill should be down there.
Okay, so it goes really deep.
They can migrate pretty deep,
How deep do they migrate?
I think they can go down to 1,000 meters.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
And
depending again on species and area. And,
yeah. And then they go back up at night, close to the surface.
Yeah.
So they do like almost 1,000 meter ascent in 24 hours. Like I mean, it's less than 24 hours because they do it twice, one up and one down.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
That's insane.
Yeah,
considering how small they are.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe they will not go that deep, but they can. I think they have been found. The largest species have been found down there. 1,000 meters.
why is krill important in the ecosystem?
I'm glad you asked.
Why do we give a damn about krill?
Yeah, well, they're there for a reason, I guess.
Are they?
Yeah,
they were put there just because they needed to be there.
Yeah, well, they're really important as a prey, a food item for seabirds and fish and whales as well.
Seabirds as well.
Seabirds, yeah, because I mean, some of the seabirds can actually dive pretty deep to feed on krill and amphipods.
Yeah, okay.
And copepods.
Yeah.
Down to some of the species down to 200 meters.
Yeah. Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That is really crazy.
That's really, really deep.
Yeah. And for that reason they're important, but also they're actually really important in transferring carbon to the deeper ocean, or to the deep ocean, because they one problem with global warming is that we have a lot of too much CO2 in the atmosphere, and actually by doing these migrations every day, they go up and feed on phytoplankton, which actually use CO2, and then they transport that down and just basically shit that out, or
they poop.
They poop. Exactly.
I have to interview Mette on his poo stories.
Oh.
So they poo the phytoplankton.
Yeah, and
then all the carbon is in the poo.
Yeah, there's a lot of carbon that is bound. What do you say? Bound?
Sequestered.
Yeah, in the poop. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the poop.
It's in the poop. Yeah. So the thing is, they already. I mean, if they migrate down 500 meters, then and poop down there, then it's not. I mean, then it's already gone from the upper ocean layers and out of the carbon budget or carbon system.
And so it goes down and it just sinks to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, they sink pretty deep, fast, because they're rather big.
Have you been studying krill poop?
A little bit, not too much. They're a little bit difficult to work with because they're so fragile, actually. But a really cool thing is that I'm working with this professor in Oslo, and he has actually used acoustics to see these fecal pellets. So he had actually, he had this stationary echo sounder, and he could actually see that the krill were migrating. And then when they were down deep and again left the deep waters to go up again, he could see that there were things sinking, and that is definitely fecal pellets. So it's measurable.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So you can use acoustics to study
it's really clear water.
Krill poo.
Yeah. If it's not too far away,
Yeah.
and if it's clear water without too many, much stuff in the water, which will take the signal or swallow the sound.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So if this krill wasn't eating this phytoplankton and wasn't taking this carbon down, what would happen to that carbon? It just stays at the surface?
Yeah, then it stays on the surface and maybe go like in equilibrium with the atmosphere.
So it goes back into the atmosphere maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not really, I mean, I don't know the exact mechanisms, but there will always be a balance between the ocean and the atmosphere, of trying to be equilibrium,
to equilibrate.
Right? I think it's not really in balance, but it aims for that, or going towards.
So this is part of a carbon sink, basically, thanks to organisms like krill. That help to relieve us of all this CO2 that we are producing, and other CO2. But that's really interesting.
Yeah, it is.
So they're important for that, and then they are whale food. Which whales feed on krill.
They do.
Partly.
They
also feed on other things, but some of them are specialized on copepod or krill.
Yeah, there are actually zooplankton, but I think they also eat small fish. And
some of them eat small fish.
Yeah, but there are actually some whales, like the bowhead whale, which is actually feeding on Calanus, which is a copepod, which is smaller than krill.
That's really interesting.
That's really funny. These giant.
They're
animals.
huge, and they're feeding on.
But in Antarctica and in the South Pole, the whales, the blue whales there, for example, they will feed on krill.
Blue whales, which are the biggest organisms that ever existed on planet Earth.
Right.
They're bigger than any dinosaur.
Yeah, that's also pretty cool, actually.
Yeah,
that they're still,
it's crazy to think that the biggest organism that ever existed on Earth
it's still
exists nowadays
Yeah.
and feeds on krill.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's great to be a marine biologist studying the food of the biggest organisms that has ever existed on Earth.
Exactly, when you put it like that.
And their poo.
Yeah, and their poo. Yeah, exactly.
You said you had a whale story?
Yeah, no, it was just because it made me think when you talked about studying what the largest creatures on Earth are feeding on.
Yeah.
It actually reminded me that I started studying marine or biology because I really wanted to study whales. It's like kind of a classic story.
Yeah, but it's awesome because
it seems like it's what people do, right? Especially.
Yeah. But there's a lot of people who want to go into marine biology because they want to study whales and dolphins and killer whales.
They're cute with brown eyes and
Yeah, they are cute.
They are kind of cute.
But now you think that krill is cuter.
Yeah.
Of course.
No, but then I thought I always thought that I wanted to be a whale woman.
A whale woman.
A whale woman.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. But then I met my supervisor for my master thesis, and he convinced me that zooplankton is much cooler. And somehow I don't know, I kind of believed him, and here I am.
And you still think so?
Yeah, I still think so. But it's also kind of a cool angle to have. Like now I can study what the whales are feeding on, like you said.
Yeah.
So in a way, I kind of ended up studying whales.
So you wanted to study whales, and did you go to university with that in mind? Did you start your undergrad with, I'm going to be a marine biologist studying whales in mind?
Yeah.
So how long have you been wanting to study whales for?
Actually, not that. I mean, it was... I kind of didn't know 100% that I wanted to go for biology.
Yeah.
But there was some other things as well I considered. But I don't know how many years, but fairly many years, I would say.
So I guess maybe it was something that came to you when you were a kid or a teenager.
Yeah, drawing whales and horses.
Yeah.
The ocean,
watching Free Willy.
Yeah, exactly. The pony of the ocean.
The pony of the ocean,
like my old supervisor used to call them.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. And so, but how? All right. So you arrived into your master's, and then your supervisor said, "Well, whales are cool, but let me show you something that is even cooler."
Yeah.
And you did your master's on krill.
Yeah, but it's actually a funny story because I was supposed to do it on Temisto amphipods, which is the
Temisto libellula, my favorite little alien.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then we went to Greenland. I mean, I do most of my research, or all my research in Greenland.
Yeah.
And then we didn't get any amphipods. But we got a lot of krill.
Yeah, well, this is a typical marine biologist story.
Yeah, right?
Let's sample for this, and then you get everything else but this.
Yeah, so we had a lot of cute krill with the big black eyes.
And you fell in love.
Immediately. Yeah, that was love at first sight.
Love at first sight.
Yeah, and since then, everything else is history.
And they lived happily ever after.
Yeah. Oh, maybe not so much. But yeah.
This is great. So I think that I find it interesting because it is cool I wanted to study polar bears. So we all had our thing. Right?
Yeah.
And then eventually I thought, you know what? It's very difficult to study polar bears.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you can't study with them because they're big and charismatic and you're not going to kill them for your studies.
Then you have like one polar bear.
And there's one polar bear and there's whereas organisms like zooplankton, there's so many of them.
Yeah.
And there's not the same kind of ethical issues around
that's true.
Sampling them and doing experiments on them. And even, I mean, their nervous system doesn't function the same as mammals, so it's
another total different object, or not object, but
so you can the kind of ecological questions you can ask are a lot more in depth, when you study these smaller organisms.
Yeah,
and it becomes difficult to study larger organisms, especially mammals.
Yeah, and extrapolate that out to a whole population of mammals, right? Or polar bears or...
Yeah. So you said earlier that you were a marine ecologist. And that's something that I find interesting because I think people who are not into this field refer to that as marine biologist.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between marine biology and marine ecology, or are these
right? The way I see it is that a marine ecologist is interested in looking at the whole ecosystem, like as a whole, whereas a marine biologist is more on the biology. Like
so the physiology, the feeding strategy of a specific species, for example, maybe focusing on one species. Yeah.
I mean, an ecologist will use also physics in the water, like temperature and how salt the water is.
Yeah.
And then, try to understand why does it look like this? Why do we have a lot of organisms in this warm water? And why is it a different species than the colder water over here? And so I think it's more...
interdisciplinary, maybe?
Yeah, I think you can say that.
Different fields of science that come together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also you're asking broad biological questions in a way, but
of course I'm still it's a kind of but I am a marine biologist, I guess, but because I really want to understand this ecosystem as a whole, I call myself a marine ecologist.
Yeah. Okay.
So
you're both then.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So you go a lot on field work.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, or not a lot, but at least once a year, and
and in the field means being on a research vessel in the middle of nowhere.
Or actually this summer I will go to Greenland on like a station on land, and then we will go out from there every day and sample and...
Yeah, okay. So there's different ways of sampling in this field. It can be either from a research vessel that roams around.
Right. It depends on which questions you want to...
Yeah, you can be based on land and you take smaller boats and you do daily trips.
Exactly.
So you do both.
I do both, yeah.
That's
really interesting because we will look at bowhead whales and how they... because they're coming to this special place in Greenland, which is... Disco Bay, which is in Midwest Greenland, and they come there in January and stay until May. Yeah. And then they just leave to go over Baffin Bay to Canada.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, we know that they feed on Calanus, the copepods there, but it's not really 100% shown.
Okay. Yeah. It's not krill, it's something else.
Yeah, we think so, but we want to use acoustics to see if it's actually also is a krill that they feed on.
Yeah. So you're going there to investigate the diet of bowhead whale.
Yeah.
Or the presence of potential prey.
Yeah, and also to maybe try to understand why the bowhead whales are leaving the area again, because the theory is that these copepods, they stand in really narrow bands close to the bottom. Because they overwinter. Yes. And then it's really easy for the whales to go down and just open their mouth and just feed on them. But then when the spring bloom comes, with the phytoplankton starts to grow, and because they have sunlight again, then the plankton or the zooplankton, the kellos, will come up and maybe distribute in the water column. So now they are not really in bands anymore.
Not as concentrated.
Exactly, So then maybe it doesn't pay off anymore to feed on them, and then the bowhead whales takes off. So it's kind of, it could be neat if we can catch this kind of different vertical distribution.
Yeah. That's really...
So that's what we
So you're totally studying whales.
Yeah, I kind of. Yeah,
come
somehow.
on. This is.
I'm not the whale person on this project, though.
Yeah, but you're investigating whale food.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
This is really fascinating. I think maybe we should wrap up. Oh my god, yeah. This is why I love being in this field, talking to awesome and interesting people all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. If you... Let's say you're talking to an aspiring marine biologist, would you have any advice for them? Or, advice? Yeah, that's a tricky question.
Yeah, that's a tricky question.
Lots of advice. Here's
exactly. I can give you a list.
300 YouTube videos.
Yeah. No, I think my advice would be to to go after what you love, I guess. I mean, what you think is interesting, even though it doesn't seem like the easiest path to go on. I think you should go for that. I mean, I guess that goes for all kind of jobs and yes. But I think it's just to say that it's not impossible to, if you really want to do something, you will also end with doing that. Yeah.
And at the same time, maybe keep an open mind on what's out there, because you wanted to do whales. Yeah. Now you're doing zooplankton. Yeah. And you love it.
Yeah, exactly. And also it's really a matter of working, like I also said before, with nice people. That's kind of half of it. Yeah. I mean, your subject can be really interesting, and then you work with people which are maybe not really good with collaborating. And
that's
so
true.
It's really also important that you have someone who takes care of you and cares of you, and
a mentor, someone who you can look up to and who's teaching you how to do research in this field.
Exactly, and can present you to the right people, like so you can broaden your network and
Well, thank you so much, Mette.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
It was very interesting, and I'm glad we talked about this, because I mean, I know what you do, but I didn't know that much in detail, so it's great. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I wish you luck on your field trip in May.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Can you take videos and send them to me so I can put them online?
Yeah, well, I guess.
I think people would love to see it. Yeah. And if you see any bowhead whales,
I think we will.
Yeah.
That's my plan. But maybe a GoPro on the head or something would work.
Yeah. It'd be really cool.
Yeah, I would see if I can get some videos.
Some nice footage.
Yeah.
Of Greenland.
Yeah. It's a beautiful place.
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, well, bye.
Bye.